looking to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles. You're watching ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Bangkok, Thailand. Hello, Faye.
Hello, Alma, and to all our viewers. This is Faye Bart from your EBC Talent Bureau, bringing you the latest news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines.
The COVID-19 pandemic.
President Duterte has renewed his call for universal access to safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines, stressing that vaccine imbalance will have consequences.
It is a moral responsibility.
Indonesia has called off its bid to salvage a military submarine that sank off the coast of Bali, killing all 53 crew abroad.
A Singaporean teenager admitted to sending death threats to English Premier League footballer Neil Maupay after becoming angry while watching a match.
The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, launched the ASEAN Regional Action Plan for combating marine debris in the ASEAN member states.
President Duterte has renewed his call for universal access to safe and effective COVID vaccines, stressing that vaccine imbalance will have consequences. The president made this speech during the Gavi COVAX Advanced Market Commitment, or AMC Summit. This was co-hosted by Japanese Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide and Gavi Chair of the Board Jose Manuel Barroso on Wednesday. Let's listen in.
The COVID-19 pandemic will only end once everyone has access to safe and effective vaccine. But to this day, access has not been universal. More than 82% of the vaccines have gone to the rich countries, while only less than 1% have gone to the low-income countries. This imbalance must be corrected, or there will be no real and inclusive global recovery to speak of. As both donor and recipient country, the Philippines counts on the COVAX AMC initiative to bring much-needed vaccines to developing countries. It is our moral responsibility to help each other and face this crisis with greater solidarity and urgency. Today, I am pleased to announce that as COVAX partner, the Philippines commits an additional of $1 million. While our modest contribution demonstrates our firm commitment to this global fight against COVID-19, it is our hope that many more countries will contribute. After this will be our collective investment for the world's people.
Now, the summit was held with the aim to fill the $1.8 billion gap of the COVAX AMC to provide COVID-19 vaccine doses for lower-income economies. Securing 1.8 billion doses would enable the AMC to protect nearly 30% of the population in all AMC countries, or roughly half the entire adult population. Currently, the AMC has funds in place to protect approximately 20% of populations, equivalent to all health and social care workers, the elderly, and those with underlying health conditions.
In the Philippines, the Department of Health, or DOH, urged local government units, or LGUs, to do house-to-house registration to accommodate more people, particularly senior citizens and persons with comorbidities, in the government's vaccination program. In a town hall on COVID-19 vaccine prioritization, master listing and registration conducted by the DOH on Wednesday, San Juan City featured their method of house-to-house registration for residents without internet access. Let's listen it.
Napakahalagang agaran maihatid ang proteksyon ng bakuna sa mga grupong lubos na mataas ang peligro sa COVID-19 gaya ng ating mga healthcare workers, senior citizens at ang mga mamamayan meron na comorbidities. So patuloy din po ang ating panawagan sa ating mga lokal na pamahalaan na siguraduhin ng ating mga kababayan na nasa A1, A2 at A3 ay may access sa pagrehistro sa pagbabakuna. Kasabay ng ating pagbabakuna, atin din pong ipagpatuloy ang mahusay na implementasyon ng ating PDITR strategies at mga safety protocols upang maiwasan po natin ang pagtaas ng kaso ng COVID-19.
Secretary Duque stressed that efficient registration enables a more organized system in identifying eligible priority groups, scheduling, reporting information, and managing the flow of people in vaccination sites. While the national government and LGUs continuously intensify their information dissemination campaigns, it is also prudent to assess what LGUs and vaccination sites can do more to improve access of senior citizens and persons with comorbidities to vaccination.
In other news, 4 fishermen are missing. 895 persons are staying in various evacuation centers, while 600 others were stranded in different ports in Western Visayas as Tropical Storm Dante affected some parts of the region. Initial reports reaching the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council said the fishermen from the municipality of Pilar in Capiz were allegedly missing after their pump boat capsized. It said 82 individuals from Capiz, 86 from Negros Occidental, and 727 from towns of Balasan and Batad in Iloilo have moved to identified evacuation centers in their respective localities. Civil Defense Information Officer and NDRRMC spokesperson Cindy Ferrer said some of the flooding has reached knee-deep while it has already subsided in other areas. Flooding has affected rice fields and roads in President Rojas and Dumarao in Capiz and rendered some areas not passable to light vehicles.
And in other news, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, on Wednesday urged the public to take precautionary measures due to lahar and muddy stream flows from Taal and Pinatubo volcanoes. At 10:30 a.m., PHIVOLCS issued an advisory citing the Weather Bureau's forecast that Tropical Storm Dante is expected to make landfall over Batangas at 5 p.m. Wednesday, and the heavy rainfall may trigger volcanic sediment flows or lahar and muddy runoff in rivers and drainage areas in Taal and Pinatubo. Let's take a look.
Pagdating naman po sa Pinatubo, dahil po meron pong natitira na pyroclastic flow deposits noong 1991, lalong-lalo na sa western side o western watershed ng Pinatubo, pinapaalala po natin na baka magkaroon ng within channel naman o channel confined na lahar sa Santo Tomas, Marela at Bucao River systems. At magkaroon din po ng mga muddy stream flows, no? Makulay na mga baha sa ilan pang mga ilog na nagmumula sa Pinatubo, tulad din ng Pasig Potrero na nasa Pampanga and O'Donnell River na papuntang Tarlac.
PHIVOLCS also mentioned in its advisory that muddy stream flows may likewise be generated along the O'Donnell and Pasig Potrero river systems, draining the Pinatubo edifices to the north and southeast, respectively, and affect downstream communities in Tarlac and Pampanga provinces. Prolonged and heavy rainfall may also generate muddy stream flow and muddy runoff around Taal volcano, particularly on the slopes west of Taal Lake, where thin remnant ash can be remobilized in streams and roads and overland of the lake quartz slopes. In particular, muddy stream flow and runoff can occur on previously affected communities of Agoncillo and Laurel, Batangas province. And he added that people in areas close to the rivers and slopes mentioned in Pinatubo and Taal must monitor the typhoon condition and take precautions as necessary. Here in Thailand, the Thai government has assured that all foreign nationals living in the kingdom who have registered on vaccination will start receiving the COVID-19 vaccine from next Monday. The Disease Control Department said that vaccination for all foreign diplomats in the country would be carried out the same day as the government's mass vaccination program based upon an advanced reservation system. And according to the Bangkok Post, there were 39 new COVID-19 fatalities and 3,886 new cases over the past 24 hours, as reported by the Public Health Ministry on Thursday morning. The 3,886 new cases comprise 2,656 among general people and 1,230 among prison inmates. And over the past 24 hours, 3,626 COVID-19 patients recovered and were discharged from hospitals.
Vietnam will resume international flights to its two biggest cities, according to officials, reversing a short-lived ban imposed over fears of a new coronavirus wave. Now, the country's COVID-19 cases have more than doubled in the past month, prompting bars, restaurants, and schools to close and a rush to secure vaccines. And as the country struggled to contain a virus outbreak in more than half of its territories, the Civil Aviation Administration of Vietnam on Monday announced a temporary suspension for international passenger arrivals at Hanoi's Noi Bai Airport from June 1 to 7. A similar order was enforced for the airport in commercial capital Ho Chi Minh City until June 14. Now, yesterday, the Aviation Authority told airports and airlines that it had reversed the suspension without mentioning a time frame or giving an explanation. Vietnam has managed to keep infection rates low, but cases have rapidly increased in the past month and now stand at more than 7,800 with 49 deaths. Meanwhile, on Wednesday, the Health Ministry said it had agreed a deal with Russia, which will supply Vietnam with 20 million doses of its Sputnik V vaccine. Health Minister Nguyen Tan Long hailed the agreement as a positive result in the Health Ministry's continuous negotiation process to obtain vaccines, according to the Health Ministry's official mouthpiece. The minister also said that the state-run Vabiotech, which would package and produce the Russian vaccines from July, with an expected monthly capacity of 5 million doses a month.
In other news, the Bureau of Immigration is supporting the proposal to allow fully vaccinated foreign nationals to enter the Philippines as part of efforts to revive the country's ailing tourism industry and reopen the country's borders. In a statement, Commissioner Jaime Morentes said, if approved by the AITF, we in the Bureau support this initiative by the Department of Tourism, or DOT, as it will not only resuscitate our tourism industry, it will also generate employment for millions of Filipinos who lost their jobs due to the pandemic. He added that aside from the tourism and travel industry, opening the country's borders to international leisure travelers will also hasten the revival of the commercial aviation and shipping industries whose businesses suffered a beating from the pandemic. And earlier, Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Cuyat asked the AITF to approve the setting of the green lanes to facilitate the re-employment of tourism workers and revive the tourism industry under safe conditions. She said the scheme would allow vaccinated foreign travelers to visit the country for leisure as quarantine rules are being relaxed while the government undertakes a massive vaccination rollout for its citizens nationwide. The DOT chief added that the Philippines should keep pace with its neighbors and the rest of the world in slowly reopening the country's tourist destinations. The BI is part of the small working group headed by the DOT and Department of Foreign Affairs, which was formed to study the feasibility of implementing the Green Lane scheme and formulate related health protocols.
And we go back to Thailand, where the Public Health Ministry has allocated more than 1 million COVID-19 vaccines for use across the country. Joining us live is Gladys Piñuela from our EVC Thailand Bureau. Hello, Gladys. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Alma. 1.1 million doses of Sinovac and AstraZeneca vaccines have been allocated for the Public Health Ministry across the country. With Bangkok as the capital city, we'll have 1 million this June alone, with 25 vaccination sites being set up. The national mass inoculation process will launch this June, said by Public Health Minister Anutin Charnvicool. He urged the public to gather information from Health Ministry as they're responsible for administering the drugs. AstraZeneca will mainly be used, the country, Anutin said, and the allocation is based on the deliverables under the contract with AstraZeneca, regardless of its manufacturing site, some of which are imported and some are produced in Thailand. Dr. Opart Karnkoinpom, Director General of the Disease Control Department, said that provinces with high rates of infection will receive more doses. Meanwhile, 300,000 doses have been administered in the island city of Phuket. Other tourist destination cities like Pattaya and Samui Island will receive more doses. Dr. Opart also added that the elderly and persons with comorbidity will be inoculated first. In provinces where schools will reopen, teachers and staff will also be inoculated. 1 million doses will be administered to employees of Social Security Office applications, which are yet to be announced. Chulaborn Royal Academy, Chulalongkorn, and Thammasat University will also take part in a vaccination drive where 300,000 vaccines will be allocated. As for prison inmates, the ministry has coordinated with the Department of Corrections to prioritize those in prisons with no reported infections to curb the spread of the virus. This update is from 5 PBS World. Back to Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Gladys. Looking forward to more updates coming from Thailand. Stay safe.
Stay safe, Alma. And from Thailand, this is Gladys Piñuela reporting. We'll live in interesting times.
All right. Faye Barte and I will be back right after this break.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back. Indonesia has called off its bid to salvage a military submarine that sank off the coast of Bali, killing all 53 crew aboard, according to the Navy. The Kri Nanggala 402 was disappeared in April while it was scheduled to take part in live torpedo training exercises, sparking a desperate international rescue effort. An underwater rescue vehicle later spotted the German-built sub lying on the seafloor more than 800 meters deep and cracked in pieces, confirming there was no hope of finding survivors. Chinese salvage ships were sent to help with efforts to haul up the vessel, but Indonesia's military said that it was ending the operation after a meeting with Chinese naval counterparts. In a brief statement, the Indonesian Navy described the salvage as not an easy task and very risky without elaborating. Navy spokesman Julius Wijjojono later said a key reason the operation ended was that searchers had yet to find the pressure hull where the sailors' bodies were believed to be located.
In other news, a burnout container ship that has already caused Sri Lanka's worst maritime environmental disaster was sinking on Wednesday with several hundred tons of oil still in its fuel tanks, and this is according to the Navy. The MV Express Pearl, carrying hundreds of tons of chemicals and plastics, burned for 13 days within sight of the island's coast before rescue workers finally managed to extinguish the blaze on Tuesday. A huge amount of plastic debris has already inundated beaches, and authorities now fear an even greater disaster should the 278 tons of bunker oil and 50 tons of gas in the Singapore registered ship's fuel tanks leak into the Indian Ocean. As tugs on Wednesday began trying to tow the ship further out to sea, Navy spokesperson Indica de Silva said it was slowly sinking. And some oil was already visible near the beaches of Negombo, about 40 kilometers or 25 miles from Colombo. Although it was not clear if it was from the stricken ship, De Silva said the Navy helped Dutch salvage firm Smith to board the vessel and establish a tow connection after several attempts overnight failed due to the bad weather. And the authorities believe that the fire was caused by a nitric acid leak, which the crew apparently knew about from May 11, 9 days before the blaze started. The police said that the captain and chief engineer, both Russian nationals, as well as a third officer, have been questioned. A court had ordered Tuesday to impound the passports of all three pending investigations. The ship was heading to Colombo from Gujarat, India, when the blaze started, having previously visited Qatar and Dubai, where the containers of 25 tons of nitric acid were loaded.
In other news, a Singaporean teenager admitted to sending death threats to English Premier League footballer Neil Maupay after becoming angry while watching a match. Derek Ng Diren, 19, sent the messages to the Brighton Hove Albion forward last year from the Southeast Asian city-state. Now, he was angered after watching a match between Brighton and Arsenal in June last year, in which Arsenal goalkeeper Bernd Leno was stretchered off in the first half after colliding with Maupay. Now, the French forward later scored the winning goal in a crucial win for Brighton, blaming Maupay for the injury and furious at Arsenal's loss. Now, Ning sent several direct messages to Maupay through Instagram, according to court documents. He said, quote, "You think you will get away from injuring Leno? No way in hell, bruv, but don't worry, you will be safe, you won't be hurt. It's more fun watching you feel pain when your loved ones go through suffering." That he wrote, also threatening to kill Maupay and his family. By using an anonymous account that did not reveal his location, Ning was able to cause material harm to Maupay, prosecutor Jeremy Bin told the court in Singapore. He said the victim genuinely believed these threats to be legitimate and credible, assumed that an attacker could be in close physical proximity to him, and kept his family at home as far as possible. Ning pleaded guilty to 2 counts counts of harassment and 2 other similar charges will be considered during sentencing. He faces a jail term of up to 6 months for each count, as well as a hefty fine. He will be sentenced next month.
In other news, Malaysia scrambled jets to intercept 16 Chinese military aircraft off the country's coast in the South China Sea, a rare incident that the foreign minister angrily denounced Tuesday as an intrusion. Foreign Minister Hishamuddin Hossain said they had flown over Malaysia's maritime zone, an area extending much further from the coast, and described it as an intrusion. He said the foreign ministry will lodge a protest with Beijing and summoned the Chinese ambassador for an explanation regarding this breach of the Malaysian airspace and sovereignty. It took place Monday off the Malaysian part of Borneo Island over the fiercely contested waters where China and Malaysia have overlapping territorial claims, and the Chinese Air Force transport planes approached Malaysian airspace in tactical formation and flew to within about 60 nautical miles of the coast, Malaysia's Air Force said in a statement. They were spotted by radar and several attempts were made to contact the planes, but they did not turn back. And as they approached, the Malaysian Air Force sent planes to intercept and identify them before they flew off.
Now, in response, China said it carried out a routine training activity strictly following international law. This after Malaysia complained about 16 military aircrafts that flew over hotly contested waters in the South China Sea. Let's take a look.
据了解呢，这是中国空军在南沙南部海域开展的例行训练活动，不针对任何国家。 训练期间，中国空军严格遵守国际法规定，没有进入他国领空。中方已就此与马方进行了沟通。
China has laid claim to nearly all of the South China Sea and has built numerous military outposts on small islands and atolls, angering other countries with competing claims to the waters. Malaysia-China relations are usually warm, but Monday's incident comes after a build-up in tensions over the sea, which is home to key shipping lanes and is believed to harbor rich oil and gas exports or gas deposits. Last year, a Chinese survey ship had a long standoff with a Malaysian oil exploration vessel off Borneo. Other claimants in the sea include Vietnam, the Philippines, Brunei, and Taiwan.
Alma and I will be right back after this short break.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Broadcast journalist Wayne De La Fuente returns on Philippine television and radio to deliver top stories and engage with the country's policymakers, shapers, and movers. Tatalakayin ang mga pangunahing balita live sa teleradyo ng Net25 at Radyo Aguila DCEC 1062. Kasama si Weng De La Fuente sa Balitalakayan.
Ako si Weng De La Fuente at itong Balitalakayan, we live in interesting times.
Welcome back. Senator Manny Pacquiao took to the Senate floor to urge unity and overcome politicking when he told Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi to stop politicking amid the regional blackouts in Luzon. When the Luzon grid was placed under red alert on Monday, Secretary Cusi was in Cebu, presiding over the contested National Council meeting. Let's take a look.
Ang ibig ko lang sabihin dito, hindi naman sa personal kong concern, kundi sa lahat ng mga concern, Mr. President. Anticipated ko na kasi yan na pag dumating yung problema, ang partido natin, ang partido ng PDP, ang maapektuhan dahil the Secretary Cusi is a member of a PDP party, Mr. President. So lahat kaming mga members nadadamay kami. So that's our concern, Mr. President. We're not going to talk about politics right now. This is not the right time to talk about politics, Mr. President. At nais ko lang naman sana na yung problema na lang muna natin ang isiguraduhin muna natin. Yan po, hindi po tayo dapat mag-away-away. Dapat magkaisa po tayo in terms of, especially in this crisis, Mr. President.
Dito po sa power outage, sino po ang nagkulang, Mr. President?
Mr. President, like I said, na ang nagkulang talaga dito yung sekretary. Ang sekretary talaga, Secretary Cusi, dahil ikaw ang namuno, ikaw ang sekretary ng department ng energy. So, kung ano mang mga problemang ganito, ikaw talaga ang may problema kasi you can exercise your power to solve the problem. Ikaw ang may command responsibility for this problem lahat. Kahit nakasama kita sa partido, ang atin dito nadadamay kaming lahat dito sa partido pag ganyan ang resulta ng trabaho mo. Ang akin dito, Mr. President, is gusto ko lang na kahit kasama kita sa partido, ang intention natin is para sa taong bayan. Hindi ito para sa sarili natin, kundi para sa taong bayan.
Ano pong ibig sabihin ng accountability dito? Hindi po maliwanag sa inyong habang lingkod kung ano pong ibig sabihin ng calling for accountability. Anong accountability po ang hinihingi ng butihing senador?
Kailangan po panagutan niya yung mga pagkukulang niya sa kanyang pagsiservisyo. Kasi mahirap naman yung nagkamali ka, itong problema na to, hindi mo inaksyonan, hindi mo ginawa, pinag-usapan na natin in the past, few hearings dito sa Senate, pero hindi nangyari pa rin itong ganito, hindi mo sinigurado, talagang kailangan mong panagutan itong problema na ito. And I hope that the President will take action on this problem kasi hindi ito isang tao lang maapektuhan kundi sambayan ng Pilipino at hindi ito milyong pesos lang ang malulugi ng bansa natin kundi bilyon pag ganitong palaging may blackout.
Power supply should be ensured in COVID-19 vaccine facilities to avoid spoiled doses, the Department of Energy said. During the Laging Handa public briefing, DOE Undersecretary Felix William Fuentebella said the department is monitoring the distribution utilities to make sure these are securing power supply for cold storage facilities of the vaccine. Starting Monday, a red alert was raised over the Luzon grid due to the insufficient power supply. Let's listen in.
Pangatlo, yung mga distribution utilities, inatasan natin. We have to protect the areas where the vaccines are. We also have to make sure that we have good contact to our consumers para alam nila kung anong oras at kung anong mararanasan ng lugar nila ng power interruption.
The red alert status is raised over the grid when power reserves fell below 4% of the peak demand. This will cause rotational brownouts. Aside from the 4% of the peak demand regulating this reserve, the system should have a contingency reserve equivalent to 4% of the peak demand plus the capacity of the largest power plant in the system, as well as a dispatchable reserve of 4% of the peak demand plus the capacity of the second largest power plant in the system. These ancillary services capacity shall be contracted by the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines.
in the Philippines, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte signed the bill extending the lifeline rate of marginalized consumers for an additional 50 years. Under the Republic Act 11521, signed on May 27, amended the Purpose Section 73 of the Electric Power Industry Reform Act of 2001 by extending the implementation of the lifeline rate to 50 years. The marginalized power consumers will be given a discount in their power bills, and the law says that the level of consumption, subsidy, and the rate, and I quote, shall be determined by the Energy Regulatory Commission, or ERC, after due notice and hearing, end of quote, provided that the ERC must primarily utilize data from the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, in the determination of the level of consumption. And among those who are included under the RA 11521 are the qualified household beneficiaries of the Kantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, or 4Ps, and marginalized and users certified and validated by the distribution utilities.
Staying in the country, private establishments may now apply for a safety certification to confirm their compliance with minimum public health standards set by the government. In a statement, Labor Secretary Silvestro Bello III said businesses bearing the safety seal assured that they are practicing the minimum health protocols such as social distancing and the use of contact tracing application, particularly the StaySafe.ph application, among others. StaySafe.ph or .ph is the country's official health condition reporting, contact tracing, and social distancing system authorized by the Interagency Task Force on Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases and the National Task Force Against COVID-19. Mr. Bello said the Safety Seal initiative is vital in the national goal of safely reopening the economy. The labor chief said with the Safety Seal certification program in place, we are assuring the public, especially our workers, that they are safe and protected outside their homes, even if we allow our economy to fully reopen, unquote. Labor Assistant Secretary and Bureau of Working Conditions Director Maria Teresita Cucueco said earlier that the Safety Seal will also boost workers' confidence in the safety at their workplace.
In other news, most Asian markets rose on Thursday, with focus on the upcoming release of key U.S. jobs data, while traders were also trying to gauge when the Federal Reserve will begin reconsidering its ultra-loose monetary policies in light of a robust economic recovery. Oil prices also extended gains, fueled by growing optimism that the reopenings and vaccine rollouts will lead to a surge in activity over the coming months and ramp up demand. Friday's non-farm payrolls figures will provide the most recent snapshot of the world's top economy, with expectations for a big jump of businesses restarts and ripple return to some semblance of normality. However, observers pointed out that the recovery in the jobs market is not as smooth as hoped, as some choose not to return to work yet, owing to a number of issues, including lingering virus fears and the free government handouts in President Joe Biden's stimulus earlier this year. And in Asia, the mood remained upbeat. Tokyo, Shanghai, Sydney, Seoul, Singapore, Wellington, and Taipei rose, though Hong Kong and Manila edged down.
President Duterte signed an administrative order granting a COVID-19 hazard pay to government personnel who physically report for work in areas under enhanced community quarantine and modified ECQ. AO 43 amends AO 26, granting a COVID-19 hazard pay at the rate of 500 pesos per day to government workers who physically report for work. Under the AO, the heads of government agencies may grant the COVID-19 hazard pay to their personnel without the need for further approval of the Department of Budget and Management, provided the personnel have been authorized to physically report for work at their respective offices or workstations on the prescribed official working hours by the head of agency or office during the period of implementation of ECQ and MECQ measures in the area of such office or workstation. For government-owned or controlled corporations or GOCCs, the funds needed for the grant of COVID-19 hazard pay shall be charged against their respective approved corporate operating budgets or COBs for the current fiscal year. Should a GOCC have insufficient funds to fully cover the COVID hazard pay at 500 pesos per day per person, a lower but uniform rate may be granted for all qualified personnel.
Staying here in Thailand, the Thai Parliament on Wednesday passed by a narrow margin the first reading of a 3.1 trillion baht budget bill for the 2022 fiscal year starting October 1, aimed at reviving an economy hit by coronavirus outbreaks. After a three-day debate, the bill passed with 269 votes, or 269 votes in favor, 201 against, and 2 abstentions. The bill has to pass second and third readings expected in August before it goes for Senate and royal approval. The budget forecasts a 5.7% drop in spending to 3.1 trillion baht in the 2022 fiscal year, with a deficit of 700 billion baht, up to 15% from the current year. Budget planners have assumed Southeast Asia's second largest economy will expand by between 2.5% and 3.5% this year and 4% to 5% in 2022. The National Economic and Social Development Council, however, predicts growth of between 1.5% and 2.5% this year due to the latest outbreak.
And ASEAN in Focus will be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Members of the vast Trans-Pacific trade deal agreed on Wednesday to start the process for Britain to join the pact as the country pushes its post-Brexit commerce strategy. Britain applied in February to join the 11-nation deal signed in 2018 by countries including Japan, Canada, Mexico, Vietnam, and Australia. The deal, known as the TPP-11, had been slated to become the world's largest trade pact before Donald Trump withdrew the U.S. in 2017. After an online meeting of the members hosted by Japan, they said in a joint statement that they had reached a decision to commence on accession process for Britain, and the move would be significant from the viewpoint of establishing a free and fair economic order. Japan's economy minister, Yasutoshi Nishimura, told reporters he also said it would strengthen the relationship between Japan and the UK, which in October signed their own post-Brexit trade deal, largely similar to the previous EU-Japan accord. British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said he was delighted with the development.
Now, for the first time here in the Kingdom of Thailand, a team of 3 Thai elite riders have qualified to compete at the Olympics. We have more updates from Cristel Mapa. Cristel?
Yes, Faye, you are right. And for the first time, a team of 3 Thai elite riders have qualified to compete at the Olympics under the leadership of Dr. Harold Link and Mrs. Nontini Tanner, President and Vice President of the Thailand Equestrian Federation. Arinata Mentavatanon, Virapat Bam Pitakonanda, and Korntawat Nat Samran, the trio have qualified for the team eventing discipline, securing their tickets to the much-awaited July 23 to August 8 Tokyo Olympics at the Babaroko Equestrian Festival held in Poland. All riders must qualify as a team to qualify in Olympics, which makes it more challenging as opposed to individual disciplines. The Thai national team has been preparing for several years to make their debut on the world's greatest sporting stage. For over a decade, the TEF has been raising the team standards with the aim of sending Thai riders to the Olympics. Maxime Livio, renowned French eventing athlete and trainer of the riders, has been training since 2013. Riders will continue training this month at Écurie Livio Stable in Summer, France, before moving to Aachen, Germany in July for forced quarantine prior to the Olympics. Athletes will undergo 2 rounds of COVID-19 screening before entering Japan and daily testing for the duration of the Tokyo Games. The International Olympic Committee has allotted 1 ticket for 1 horse owner to attend. Spectators will not be allowed to attend the game. And that's our sports news for today. Back to you, Faith.
Thank you, Cristel Mapa, for that indeed good news sports news. Stay safe.
Thanks, Faye. Reporting live from Thailand, I am Cristel Mapa. We live in interesting times.
And the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, launched the ASEAN Regional Action Plan for combating marine debris in the ASEAN member states from 2021 to 2025, which provides a scalable solution-focused joint strategy to address marine plastic debris across the region. Take a look.
The East Asia-Pacific region has become a global hotspot for plastic waste. Recent studies have shown that around 243 million tons of waste, including 31.7 million tons of plastic waste, is generated in just 6 ASEAN member states. 53% of the waste generated in ASEAN is uncollected, and less than a quarter of the total waste collected in ASEAN is recycled. Recognizing this concern, in 2019, under the chairmanship of Thailand, 10 ASEAN member states came together to prepare the Bangkok Declaration to combat marine debris. And now, building on that declaration, the same countries have come together to prepare the Regional Action Plan for combating marine debris, which is a vital document to guide ASEAN member states to create waves of change in the battle with marine debris. The goal of the Regional Action Plan is to drive coordination across borders to respond to the marine plastic pollution challenge. It is focused on reducing inputs into the system, enhancing collection and minimizing leakage, and creating value for waste reuse. And the plan builds on the 4 pillars from the ASEAN Framework of Action. Policy support and planning, including driving best practices for phasing out single-use plastics, packaging and labeling, and creating standards for waste trade and recycling. Research, innovation, and capacity building, including strengthening regional knowledge and data on waste and microplastics, and creating consistent approaches to training and collecting information. Public education and awareness, including approaches to drive behavior change and awareness for consumers on packaging and labels. And private sector engagement, including establishing regional platforms for knowledge, implementation support, and to drive innovation and investment. Driving collaboration across countries is at the heart of the Regional Action Plan for combating marine debris. and will help build further momentum for everyone involved, the private sector, development partners, and communities to deliver impact across ASEAN. Through the Regional Action Plan, we can help protect the vital marine environments that sustain us by coming together to rethink plastics, from their source to the seas that connect us all.
And as always, thank you very much, Faye, for keeping me company today.
Thank you also, Alma, and thank you to the people who watch ASEAN in Focus today. Stay safe and keep updated. This is Faye Barton once again from EBC Thailand Bureau. We live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back tomorrow. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.
This program is supported by Security Bank,